Hey everyone, this is Jeff from Evan Tuning. I just got back from the 2016 World Cup Finals in Maryland, and after walking around the track for the several days that we're there for the race, got a lot of questions from people in the pits, or up at the line about basic things that kind of blew my mind that I just thought everyone would know or be common knowledge, but apparently they're not. So I'm putting this video together for 10 tips and tricks for front-wheel drive drag racing. So tire pressure plays a huge role in traction. What we found works the best in a front-wheel drive drag racing application is 6 to 7 PSI. Now that's assuming you're going to be using Mickey Thompson 24.5 by 9 or M&H 25 by 8.7 inch tires. Keeping it in that range gives you the ideal balance between stability and traction. So if you go much lower than that, you're probably not going to hook up any better, but the car will become unstable. Any higher than that, you're not going to hook up and the stability is going to be about the same. So 6 to 7 PSI in those tires will get you where you want to be. On a drag racing application, when you run slicks, the slick actually has the chance to spin on the wheel when you launch hard enough. In order to get around this, you either have to run a tire screw or a bead lock. A tire screw is a screw that holds the bead lock of the tire to the outside of the rim. So you drill multiple holes, evenly spaced, on the inside and outside lips of the tire and wheel, and you attach the tire to the wheel. Or a more expensive option is to run a bead lock, which is a wheel that has been machined with screws on the face of it, or threads, and there is a lip, and the lip bolts between the tire and the wheel, and that clamps the tire with a 360-degree wrap to the wheel. You can do bead locks on the outside and the inside, or the outside and tire screw the inside. There's multiple ways to do it, giving you the same result. You want to have some way of attaching the tire to the wheel because it improves your 60-foot times and your reaction times when you launch the car. When racing a high-power front-wheel drive drag car, the slicks will wear unevenly side to side. And to prevent this from happening, we found that swapping the tires every pass back and forth will give the most even wear and also prolong the life of the tire. We've seen anywhere from 5 to 10 more passes, depending on the power level, out of a set of slicks. So it's a good idea to keep your tires in good shape longer. All the popular front-wheel drive drag racing slick choices are made in a 13-inch diameter. There's the Mickey Thompson 24.5 by 9. There's also the M&H 25 by 8.7. They also offer another 24.5 by 9.5, I believe, as well. But they're all made in 13-inch. When you're selecting a drag wheel, you want to look for a 13-inch. You want to have the wheel set up for one of the good tire choices. You don't want to go with a 15-inch, which will limit your choices substantially. In addition, the width of the wheel plays a huge factor. A lot of the cheaper drag wheels that are made in a 13 by 7 or 13 by 8. What we have found works best is a 13 by 10. That allows you to stretch the tire to put the most contact patch down to the ground to give you the most traction. Case in point, we had 4/10 drop in ET just by going from a 13 by 8 to a 13 by 10 inch wheel. It's a huge difference just by changing that and no other factors changing. Alignment specs are a huge deal in a front-wheel drive drag racing application. What we found works the best in the rear is keeping the camber around 0, keeping the toe or caster, if they're adjustable, around OEM spec. In the front, you want to have negative camber. You want to have around -1 to 1.5 degree of negative camber. You want to have your caster, if you have adjustable traction bars or ability to adjust it, you want to have no more than 4 to 5 degrees total. And you want your toe to be around OEM spec. The reason why you want negative camber is that when you're launching the car, if you have negative, when the front end picks up, you're going to have 0 camber. So your tire is going to do this on front end lift. So under power, the front end is going to lift a little bit, and you want your contact patch to be at a 0-degree camber ideally. The best way to go about doing this, if you get the car in an alignment rack with the slicks on, air down to around where you're going to run them, you're going to want to push up on the front end approximately, about how much the front end would lift going down the track, so it's a few inches, and watch your camber curve on the actual alignment rack. If you find that you need to run -2 or a -0.5 degree, whatever works for your particular car, for your particular suspension setup is what you want to go with. But it's key to have it negative, not positive, not 0, because you want to have that camber curve at 0 to give you the most traction when the front end lifts. So the burnout is a critical aspect of front-wheel drive drag racing, or drag racing in general. You need to get your tires up to the manufacturer's optimal tire temperature in order to perform ideally on the track. So in a front-wheel drive car, I've seen people do them at the track in 3rd gear, 2nd gear, 1st gear. I hear a lot of back and forth of what gear you should do them in. I found that 3rd gear is the best gear to use. You get your tires speed up, you get the tires hot. Every tire manufacturer is a little bit different, is what they say the tire temperature, the ideal tire temperature is. A Mickey Thompson is what we primarily ran on our car, the 24.5 by 9s. We found that a 5-second, 6-second burnout in 3rd gear was enough to get the tire temperature up to optimal range and to perform the best going down the track. You're going to have to experiment on your car. You might find that you need a 10-second burnout. If the track temperature is a little bit colder, or if the track temperature is hot, you may not have to do as big of a burnout. So it's going to change based on the weight of the car, also on the track and ambient temperature. So there's going to be a little bit of experimentation on your part. But we found that 5 to 6 seconds is about ideal in 3rd gear, and you should be good to go. One trick that we found over the years that works extremely well is using a clutch slip valve. A lot of people don't know what that is. Tilton makes a clutch slip or delay valve. It goes in line between your clutch master and your clutch slave, and it slows down the rate at which when you put your foot on the clutch and you let it off, it slows down the rate that the clutch is able to disengage, and that allows you to effectively slip it. So what that does is kind of 2 things. One, it allows you to launch the car, and it allows you to fine-tune the launch. On a front-wheel drive car, or in a rear-wheel drive car, but on a front-wheel drive car in this case, if you leave at 8,000 RPMs and 15 pounds of boost, and you dump the clutch, you're going to get a lot of drivetrain shock, and it's also the way that the car leaves will be affected in the 60 foot in the reaction time. By putting a slipper valve or a delay valve in there, it allows you to slow down how the clutch is coming out. So you're able to dump the clutch every time, and it's able to keep your clutch slip consistent every time so that you can launch the car the same way every time. The second aspect of it is it helps with drivetrain shock. So dumping the clutch, it's going to slip the clutch and ease out when you leave. Or if you're flat shifting or full throttle shifting the car, or even clutch shifting it, going down the track, it's going to slip the clutch in between shifts. So that's also going to reduce the drivetrain shock or potential wheel spin into the next gear. It's going to absorb it into the clutch. It will wear out the clutch a little bit, but replacing the clutch is far cheaper and far less aggravation than replacing your transmission if you have a really expensive transmission. So this tip is might be a little bit controversial as far as what people agree or disagree, but what I found works. When you have the clutch and the clutch and flywheel, when you put the flywheel to the crankshaft, you have flywheel bolts, and when you put your engine balancer to the crankshaft, you have a bolt, and those bolts have a torque spec from the manufacturer. The problem is when you're running a high performance, high RPM engine in a front wheel drive drag race application, those torque specs no longer apply. You're spinning the engines, anywhere from 9,500 to maybe over 11,000 RPM. what I found works the best and what I've always done on all of our race cars or clients' race cars over the years, I use red Loctite and I use a impact gun, a half-inch impact gun in particular, and I drive the bolts in. I don't torque them. It is technically on paper not the ideal way to do it, but it is the only way that I found that keeps the flywheel from getting loose or the crankshaft balancer from getting loose. Like I said, some people might disagree with it, but I have talked to many other people, many other racers, many other shops that do the exact same thing, and it works. I've never had any issues on engine teardowns as far as stripping the bolts or having any damage done by doing it, but it'll ensure that you're not going to shake a flywheel loose or a balancer, which can cost you an engine if you break the oil pump. Another tip that I can give is ignition systems for drag racing. You're going to run in a boosted car, you're going to run a lot of boost, you're going to run a lot of power. So you're going to need to have a spark plug and an ignition system that's up to the task. Basic things with spark plugs is you want a colder heat range spark plug. General rule of thumb is you want at least 1 step colder spark plug per 100 to 200 horsepower over factory that you're making. You're going to get to a certain limitation where you can't get a colder plug for that application, so you use the coldest that you can get if, say, you're making 500 horsepower more than stock. Spark plug gap plays a huge impact on ET mile an hour at the track, or just making the power in general. So you're going to want to run a large enough spark plug gap so that the car still runs and drives okay if it's a street car. If it's a drag car, I generally run a very, very tight spark plug gap. Case in point, and this isn't front wheel drive specific, but the S2000 that I built and tuned, I work with the owner from B-Tune Performance. We've just recently won an 824 and a best mile an hour of 176. The engine's making about 1,300 horsepower. It's in a real drive application, but we run a NGK heat range 9 spark plug, which is the coldest plug that we can get for the application, and we run about 9 to 10 thousandths plug gap. So the plug gap might seem it's absolutely ridiculous, but that's what it takes to spark through 60 pounds of boost and close to 1,300 horsepower on a 4-cylinder. So you may need to get that extreme with your spark plug gap, but you have to find out what works for your particular application, and that's just what happens to work for us. My last tip is something very general, and they can kind of go for any kind of drag racing in general or motorsports, but it's the K.I.S.S approach, which if you haven't heard of it, it's keep it simple, stupid. And that just means don't overcomplicate things. Don't make things harder on yourself as far as setting up the car. Don't do 5 changes at one time going down the drag strip. Try to isolate maybe your changes to the 60 foot. Or, if you're having an issue with shifting, don't turn the boost up. Just try to nail that shift down for the next pass. Or it can even be as simple as, throwing X, Y, and Z parts at your car at one time and trying to chase a problem when you could have just tried to go one step at a time, trying to isolate what's going on. Don't make things more complicated. A lot of the times, the key to going fast is to dumb things down and take a step back and look at what you're doing and keep it simple. And that's what I found works the best for us, keeping it simple, breaking down the car into subsystems. If you're having a particular launch problem, look at the suspension, or look at the two-step, or look at your anti-lag or whatever if it's a launch issue. But don't make those changes together at the same time, because chances are you're going to be chasing your tail. You have to make one change, see the cause and effect, and go from there. So these are my 10 tips and tricks for front-wheel drive drag racing. Hopefully you gain some knowledge, you learn some new stuff today, and you can apply it to your car and drop some ET at the track.